Griveth, once home to the most wondrous kingdom the world had ever known, blasted to nothing in just a fortnight. It is here that the fiends of hell walk among us. It is here where all things die. Welcome to Griveth. Demon invaders roam the landscape and have conquered all. The world is a ravaged and wrathful wasteland, where the old world lies buried beneath the blood and sand with its gods and its secrets. Water is fought over with blood and steel. Compatible with the 5th edition of the world's oldest fantasy role-playing game, this book contains all new character creation options, including all of the familiar classes with new aspects befitting the ravaged wastelands of Griveth, along with new backgrounds, subclasses, spells, feats, and so much more. New races will allow you to play as the cursed Ash Elves, the Forsaken Humans, the Primordial Incarnate, the Proud Orcs, the reptilian Suri, or the infernal-blooded tieflings. New game mechanics such as blood, grit, and effort give your games an intense focus on lethality and survival. Numerous roll tables full of ideas to help bring your games to life. Featuring incredible thematic art by Brandish Gilhelm of Runehammer Games, as well as Lloyd Collins. The people of Griveth are not heroes. In Griveth it is courage just to survive. Will you rise to face the tide of demons, or will you succumb to the hostile elements? Available now on DriveThruRPG.com.
Learn the ways of the Game Master, the Dungeon Master, and delve into the minds of the players. If you're looking for adventure, excitement, thrills, and a dice-rolling good time, grab the modules each month and play the campaign with your gaming group with quest givers DM Scotty and DMG. They're taking you on an epic journey through the role-playing experience every Friday. You're sure to get hooked on adventure.
And we really liked the idea of creating adventures together, so we thought that'd be a lot of fun to share with you guys.
I didn't think this kind of stuff would come out of my brain. We are quest givers, and I'll see you in the next video.
Hey, this is a very unproduced promotional trailer, but I've been so busy that this is what you're getting right now. This is my very own promo on my very own channel, airing for the very first time. As you can see right here to the side, this is the Adventure Mixtape, a music and adventure anthology which contains my very first ever published adventure, Gorillas in Their Midst. And one of the players tonight actually was one of the original players in the first version of the adventure that served as the playtest, Jeremy. What is Adventure Mixtape? Well, it's a collection of 4 adventures from the Arcane Library, Berlingsbeard, Mini Terrain Domain, and Shirong Biswas. In those adventures, you have Treaty of the Tiger King by the Arcane Library, A Lone King Negotiating the End of a War, Madness of the Majestic Menagerie by Berlingsbeard, a zoo overrun by mind control snakes, The Infernal Collection by Shirong Biswas, A Murder at a High-Stakes Fashion Show, and Gorillas in Their Midst by Mini Terrain Domain is a deadly jungle temple full of treasures and intelligent apes. 4 adventures, all running you through levels 1 through 5. You can run them independently, or you can run them together. And as we're calling it a mixtape, we each had custom music that was made to accompany our adventures, which within the adventure book, you can download those tracks to help set the tone when you run that adventure. It was a lot of fun working with these other artists and to be invited in this collaboration, and very exciting to see what I can now say is one of the hottest low-level adventures on DriveThruRPG, is among the top 10 adventures on DriveThruRPG, and is also listed among the top Dungeons and Dragons adventures on DriveThruRPG. So where can you buy this adventure, you're asking? DriveThruRPG exclusively. So head over to DriveThruRPG and search for Adventure Mixtape to get your copy today. In fact, I'm going to make it even that much easier for you. As you look over to the chat, you will find a hyperlink that will take you right there. So yeah, check it out. And that's my promo. Trust me, by next week we will have a something to rival or accompany Griveth and Quest Givers. Now, we're about to start our show. Whoops. There we go. Okay. Sorry, our producer, that's me, is getting a little sidetracked and getting things out of order. But hey, internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is the Sunless Citadel, our mini campaign featuring some crafty individuals. And as you can tell by the lovely headshot and still image of Megan from Dice on Ice, we are down a player tonight. That's okay. Megan is on a real world adventure in the remote mountains of Canada, and she is apparently nature is telling her, which is ironic with her being a druid, nature is telling her to focus on the scenery of where she is because her internet signal is kaput. So we have I have a way that I will weave this absence into the story with things that were actually set up in our previous episode, which you can view at your leisure on youtube.com/mini-terrain-domain, where all of our episodes reside. So, this is episode 9, Weekend at Bernal's. We ended the last session pretty much with a pissed off bugbear heading into the room to face off against you guys. But we'll get to that in a moment. We are going to go around the horn here and have everybody introduce themselves and tell us where we can find you, plug what you want to plug, tell us who you are playing, and then I will explain the domain dice, do a recap, and then, I don't know, let's play some Dungeons and Dragons for a couple hours. So let's go ahead and start up over on this side here with V.
Moi?
Moi. I mean,
Well,
you.
All right, we can do it all over again. Hi, everyone. I am V. I have the YouTube channel, The Crafting Muse, where I do terrain, scatter, and painting minis and other fun little things like that. You can find me here a lot. I play here on Thursday nights as well as on Monday nights, and very active over on the Twitters as well. And tonight I'll be playing our feisty bard, Cantriel. She is getting close to wit's end with the outbursts and the tantrums and all these things going on around her. She's not used to all of this, but she's finding out that she's a little bit more to her than just a pretty face and a few songs tucked under her belt.
Excellent. Next up is everybody's favorite dwarf, favored by the domain of dice. It is Talmud.
Hey everybody, my name is Jeremy. I have the YouTube channel, The Erasmus Expeditions, where I do live plays and have crafting videos talking about RPGs. And coming next week, next Friday, I will have the first in a new video series called The Help Action, where I'm going to interview my first guest, which will be Matt Click from Absolute Tabletop and A Fistful of Dice. We're going to be discussing storytelling in RPGs. So come by, join us for about an hour or so. I think it's going to start at 9 o'clock Central Time. So yeah, hopefully that's going to be a lot of fun. I am playing Talmud, as was let out by our wonderful DM. Talmud is incredibly unlucky, except for everything in damage, it seems like. It seems like he certainly can bring the pain when he swings Goethe, which I'm looking forward to getting plenty of chance to do here in just a minute.
All right. And next up is, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to not skip you. I'm going to come to you in a moment, Scotty, because our super fan, chameleon fam, has already dropped 4 domain dice with the $20 super chat. He's definitely thinking you're going to need the help, Talmud, especially with you guys being down your druid, your bear lady. So thank you, chameleon fam. We will go ahead and get these. Let's see. So that puts you guys at 17. So that's going to take you to there. 17 domain dice, many of them courtesy of Chameleon Fam, as well as some other people from the last few weeks. So thank you so much for that. And real quick, they are the domain dice, which is the interface is right down here, is a way that you can have an influence on the campaign, like Chameleon Fam. It's very simple, 500 bits over on Twitch, or a $5 donation through the donation button on Twitch below the video, or the YouTube super chat, subscriptions, and those kind of things, raids, as they happen. All of those earn the player's domain dice that they can use to re-roll a d20 roll, or they can force me to re-roll a d20 roll. So you, through donations and domain dice, help to alter the player's fates, hopefully in a good way. So far, Talmud's still alive, so it seems to be working. So with that, now we're going to head up to this corner. Scotty.
Hey. Yes, my mic's on. Okay. All right. Hey, I'm DM Scotty. My nemesis, darn you mute button. I have my Quest Giver shirt on, which you notice is like a little exclamation point with the QG on it. And Quest Givers is going live on 12:30 a.m. EST. So if you're awake and you want to check it out, check it out. And I put the website up in the chat, and that'll go live at the same time. So you'll be able to get the module and everything, the store will open and all that. Make sure you get on the mailing list, because we got extra content and that kind of stuff. So fun stuff. And I can't wait for you guys to see this stuff. The module, I'm so proud of it. Gareth and I came up with some crazy fun ideas and a lot of flavorful stuff I think the campaign has for you. So I'm playing Griveth, and I'm a paladin. I'm an old war vet who suddenly came into the power of being a paladin. My friends haven't quite found out how that happened yet, but I'm trying to control. I'm learning a little more, trying to control it. My last problem with my influx of power wasn't as scary as my previous ones, where I just kind of went nuts. So hopefully he's learning a little more about how to control this god power that he's got. But yeah, it's been really fun with these guys, and can't wait to get started. So let's roll.
All right, and I just bumped you guys up another domain die, because what you're looking at, who is our longest subscriber on the channel, has just re-upped for 9 months in a row. So thank you, Josh, for that. I know you just said you got to run, but thanks for the re-up and for another domain die for the players through that re-up subscription. All right, so recap. Sunless Citadel, nearby town, Oakhurst. The characters, some of them have been in town for as little as a month or two. Some have been in town for as long as 15 years. And recently, 2 mysteries have come up that people are requesting help with. One is, where in the heck these goblins that show up every Midsummer's Day with this magical apple, where are they getting them? And why is it every time they plant the seeds from this magical apple, the saplings disappear? The other mystery is that the merchant leader in town, a woman by the name of, the last name of Hukreeli, I'm going to get her first name, Kirowin Hukreeli. 2 of her children, Talgin and Sharwin Hukreeli, had taken up with a band of adventurers quite a while back, who had sought out the so-called Sunless Citadel and had not been seen or heard from in a couple of months. So our intrepid adventurers followed the goblins to the Sunless Citadel, delved down into the chasm, where Talmud began recklessly activating traps along the way, as he's wont to do. They encountered some kobolds, picked up a quest from the kobolds to find and return the white dragon wormling Kelsrix, and they were accompanied by Meepo. On this mission, they ran into goblin territory. Along the way, Talmud set off a few more traps. They found the dragon. They also got into a fight with a bugbear and quite a few other goblins. Unfortunately, the dragon came into the fray and Meepo was killed instantly when the dragon saw him and breathed his cold breath on Meepo, turning him into a kobold sickle. They encountered along the way, Talmud got revenge for Meepo by practically ripping the dragon's head off with his bare hands, killing the dragon wormling. They met with the goblin matron of the goblins that were living in this area, who had been sort of forcefully taken over by a group of hobgoblins. And they made a deal that the goblin matron said that she would allow the party to have the fruit, just have a bunch of fruit and some saplings, whatever. Just get some crazy old druid and all these other creeps out of their place, out of their Twilight Grove, so they can have their Gulthias tree back. The party agreed to this. They had killed the hobgoblins, took a nice long rest, descended down into a not at all creepy 60-foot deep, 80-foot deep well with purple or white vines and purple moss growing on it, where through a series of misfortunes, Talmud moved his bad luck over to Vi temporarily, who lost her grip. Nobody else was able to grab her, and she fell 60 feet onto her back into a room below. Fortunately, she survived. Everybody came down, where they found they were in an underground garden being tended by some skeleton farmers, who pretty much paid them no mind until the twig blights attacked them. Then the skeletons also attacked them. But Griveth came in to save the day with his paladin turn undead, sending more than half of the skeletons running into the shadows. And then they fought off the remaining threats until suddenly Bernal, I forgot his name. It's the title of the episode, and I forgot his name. Bernal, who was the bugbear they fought previously and who had escaped. Bernal has just entered with his 2 trained giant rats, Grip and Fang. He is now wearing an antlered helm. And the characters of Griveth, Cantriel, and Talmud didn't see this, but when she had crashed, Vi had remembered something from her past, a vision of dead bodies everywhere in her family home, her parents slaughtered, and blood on her face and her hands, and a mysterious figure looking through the window, nodding with a smile, wearing an antlered helm. Bernal has suddenly come into the room. I won't let you take me so easy this time. We're gonna get them, Grip and Fang, as he begins to turn loose his giant rats. And I would like you all to roll for initiative. And as you do this, I'm going to have you make another check in a moment. So go ahead. We're going to roll initiative right off the bat here. I need dice. There we go. So Bernal. Okay. That's going to be fast. Griveth, how'd you do?
I got a 10.
Cantriel.
11.
Talmud.
17.
I would like the three of you. Actually, hold on, because all right, here is the order. Talmud, nope. Grip and Fang are gonna go first. Talmud, you're next. And then Bernal, or yeah, I spelled his name wrong. Bernal is third. Cantriel is fourth. Griveth is fifth. Bernal reaches down and releases Grip and Fang, the two feral giant rats, who immediately come charging into the room. And there are four of you there. And I'm going to see Cantriel, Grip is going to attack you. And the other one is going for Vi. So let's see what they do here. Cantriel, this rat comes jumping on you because it's part of its pack is there. It gets advantage on the attack. That is going to be a 22 to hit.
Can I deflect that with my shield?
You can certainly try. What does that do again?
Mhm.
Impose
Just make the reroll.
disadvantage?
Yeah, disadvantage.
Okay, so that's going to be a dirty 20 to hit.
Yep.
It just slides in as you move in. This rat is craftier than the other ones, and it scoots right in under your shield. And Cantriel, you take 5 points of piercing damage as this rat just leaps in and bites into your thigh. At the same time, one comes running to Vi, and I don't remember what Vi's. I should have got her character sheet. As it goes to strike Vi, we're going to do something a little different here. We're just going to see what happens. All right. Just rolling the thing. Ooh. So. All right. You watch as this rat comes jumping at Vi. And there's this moment where just for a split second, everything seems to slow down. And Vi is doing nothing to make any kind of defensive effort. She's just standing there. And as you all sort of look over at her, you see that her eyes have gone completely white. And they seem to be glowing. And as this rat comes leaping at Vi, suddenly there's this, and Vi seems to just kind of fold into herself, and a moth starts flying around the inside of the chamber. And it misses Vi. It is now Talmud. You are up.
Talmud, seeing the situation kind of unfold in this rat, which he has developed an extreme dislike for since coming to this citadel. He's going to wheel Goethe around and charge at Fang or Grip, whichever it was that went after Vi.
All right. Go for it.
Excellent. I am going to recklessly swing Goethe about over my head and bring it down towards the rat for a natural 20.
Fantastic. All right. That's definitely a hit.
Good. Okay, so remind me one more time how you do crits. Bad timing. Sorry.
Sorry,
You cannot breathe liquid.
Full damage on the first die and then roll the second.
Max damage, and then roll your damage dice one more time.
But the modifier goes in once, right?
Yep, modifier goes in the first time, and then re-roll your dice.
Sweet. All right, so that is 12 and minus 21. So 25 points of bludgeoning damage.
How brutally do you murder Bernal's pet rat Grip? that has just bitten Cantriel. Vi.
So it just bit into the elf's flesh, and all of a sudden Talmud is standing next to Cantriel, swinging Gerta, and he actually collides with this thing's skull just right on the side, and it actually knocks the head off, and the head actually tumbles down this kind of loamy ramp that kind of was at the bottom of this well, and kind of knocks into the boot of Bernal.
Oh, and I completely neglected to bring this up because this was a key thing that happened at the end of last session. Bernal had poured potions into each of the rats and also taken one himself, and they are all twice their normal size. I just saw that note. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. They're all big. But you still completely obliterated Grip, the giant rat. So well done, Talmud, in uncharacteristically rolling a crit, a nat 20 on the first roll. So we got that out of the way. As it is now Giant Bernal's turn, as you send the giant rat's head flying across. Bernal just, his now big form. No! I will kill you and remove your head! As he comes charging towards you, wielding his large, it's almost like a giant bat with spikes all over it. It's his Morning Star. As he comes towards you and he swings away at you, Talmud.
He does have advantage on that because I recklessly attacked.
That's right, because you recklessly attacked. So that is going to be a 17 hit.
That does bypass my
And
armor.
so you just see him coming across towards you. Smashing up against you. And that is going to be... Because he's enlarged, he gets an extra damage die. 13 points of piercing damage as this thing slams into you. And we immediately go to Cantriel, who is standing right there as well, as Talmud has just gotten clobbered by Giant Bernal.
So Bernal has the helmet on his head. He's holding the Morning Star. What does his armor look like again?
He's wearing, for the most part, he's got just like, because he's a bugbear, so he's mostly just this brutish kind of hairy dude. He's got on his free hand, he's wearing like a leather gauntlet. He's got on his arm, weapon arm, he's got sort of a leather pauldron with spikes coming out of it. It almost looks like the chest leather armor sort of looks like a corset. And it has the, like, where it hangs down, the leather hangs down, sort of almost like a loincloth. It's a very crude leather armor.
Okay, then I'm going to cast Heat Metal on his Morning Star.
The bulk, just so you know, the bulk of his Morning Star is wooden. It's like a giant wooden.
So then the helmet.
Oh, there you go. The helmet is definitely metal.
Then we're going to go for the helmet.
All right, so what does that do?
He's basically going to be taking 2d8 of fire damage. He'll either have to do a Constitution saving throw to get out of it or drop the object. If he doesn't drop the object, then it's going to be disadvantage on next attack.
So does he take that 2d8 immediately?
From the look of it, when he casts the spell, yep.
All right, go ahead and wait. Is there a save on that?
Constitution saving throw.
Okay, it's a con save.
So he can opt to take the con,
this is
or he
actually
can...
the first time I've ever had a player use heat metal.
It can be handy.
So you said it's either the con save or remove, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if he's smart enough to know to take this thing off. He is not. That's a 2. I just rolled a wisdom check, so he just starts. So his con check is a. What's the DC?
13.
He rolled a 13 and has a +1.
You're going to re-roll that.
Oh, of course. Of course I am. All right. So that new roll is an 18.
Oh, come on.
That's a 17 on the die with a +1. As he just. So does he take half damage?
No, but I can have it go again as a bonus action next go around.
Okay. So he's just sort of, I imagine you can just sort of smell that singeing, burning hair smell as it's starting to glow a little bit. And he's just
I'm sorry. He does take the damage on the first. It's the second time around he has to do the con saves.
Oh, okay. So he takes the damage. Okay.
So he takes the damage.
As he's, so I'll give you back your
Rewind.
the main die there.
Rewind, sorry.
As he, like I said, it's the first time I've had a player use it.
It's the first time I've used it in this version.
So he's going. "Oh!" So how much damage does he take?
8. He got an 8 with 2d8s.
All right. And Griveth. Sorry, is that the end of your turn, Cantriel?
That is it, yeah.
Griveth, you're up. You're kind of in the same vicinity too, because you had attempted to block the rat that was going for Cantriel. So in a good tactical move, you guys are all bunched up.
All right. Yeah. All right. So Griveth seems to have like sometimes he has issues with like how fast he reacts. Like Cantriel has noticed that he sometimes kind of zones out, like he's somewhere else. Maybe it's a fact of the holy power is like, he's actually, in that mindset somewhere. And other times he's like, right on it. He gets right in there and he's ready to go. This time was one of those times where he seemed to zone out for a minute. And finally he kind of, he deflected tried to deflect the rat, but it was more of like almost like a reflex. It wasn't even almost conscious. It's just that's what he does, and he kind of did it. But she sees him kind of, something's going on. So he sees that the giant thing has run over, and whacked into Talmud, and so I have a question. Quick question, Jake.
Yeah.
Is my bless still going on?
How long
It's
does
a
that?
minute duration, so probably not.
No, because enough time had lapsed after that last fight, and when Bernal kind of went through the theatrics of showing up.
Right. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Okay, so he looks over at Cantriel and he sees, that Talmud just taken this pretty serious wound, and he's trying to make a decision, and he looks at Cantriel, and what is, like, he's looking for something from Cantriel, like, do you want me to help Talmud or do you want me to help you? Like, it's just kind of a glance at you, and he's like a quick glance, like it's all happening very fast, and he's trying to read what your reaction is. So what is your reaction, Cantriel?
I think at this point it's like, hurt the bugbear.
Okay, he gives a quick nod and a quick stride over to where the bugbear is. Yeah. Do I get any kind of bonuses for his being a hothead or anything like that?
No, but he, as long as he does not remove it, he has disadvantage against you guys. It doesn't grant you advantage, but he has disadvantage on his attacks and ability checks.
Okay. Griveth does what kind of seems like a nutty move.
And then
Okay.
he leaves us in suspense.
Sorry, I was just checking my.
Yeah, that was a very dramatic pause.
So he you know, he's got his shield on his arm. He's not dropping; it's kind of slung on his arm, but he kind of drops his Morning Star to swing down, and so it's hanging from his wrist, right? So he goes in, and he uses what happened with Talmud as a distraction to get a grip on this bugbear. So I'm going to try to grapple this guy, and even though he's a size larger, I still have advantage.
All right. Yeah. So that's just a strength versus strength, I believe.
Okay.
That is a natural 20.
Reroll it.
The dice are favoring me tonight.
Yeah, they are.
I'm going to cause you guys to burn through these. All right, here we go. Okay, so that is a... What'd you get?
I got a 19.
Don't forget you have disadvantage. Jake.
You're right, because that's an ability check. So hold on.
Oh, man, what?
So
we might not need to use the die then if you had disadvantage.
You would have.
Okay.
So yeah, it's it's a 9.
Okay. Okay, so I catch him in that moment where he's off guard, and I wrap my arms around him, and I'm trying to hold him, and with my special grappler ability, larger creatures than me don't automatically break free.
Excellent. So he is grappled. How exactly do you describe how you wrap around him?
Oh, okay. So I see him, bring his weapon down, and Talmud gets slammed with it. So when he kind of brings his arm back, and he's kind of doing this, like I'm the big bad guy, So at that point, I wait for that perfect moment, and I leap up, and I kind of grab around his arms like this, so he's like restrained, and I'm behind him. So I'm standing behind him, holding around to his chest. And
all right,
yeah, his arms
so
are
yeah, and he's definitely stuck then. Fantastic. But he can still yell.
Yes.
Fang! And Fang is going to come around, and first off, I'm going to see if Fang is going to obey his command. That's Fang obeys his command and wheels around from where it's kind of not engaged with anybody because it had attacked Vi, who had turned into a moth. As actually, that's right. Before Fang goes, though, I have to do something. Doing a thing, and that thing is...
Never like hearing that from the dungeon master. That's never good.
The moth that's fluttering around above you, that is Vi, you see it suddenly go, and all the way on the far side of this room, back where she originally fell, Vi suddenly teleports just back in her human form, standing in the corner of the room, eyes still white, hands at her side, just generally facing in your direction. And now Fang is wheeling around to attack Griveth. So I will roll a different die that I have, not the one that kept rolling 20s. I should have stuck with that die. As Fang comes wheeling around towards you, Fang slips in the loose soil and sort of does that thing like when you see dogs going onto a tile floor and they kind of and just wheels right past you. That was a natural one. So it completely misses you. Now, the way I do critical fails, you technically could get an opportunity attack against it, but that would mean you break your grapple with Bernal.
Can I kick him with my steel boot?
I will let you take a kick.
Put my boot up his rat ass.
Well, now I definitely will let you make the attack. I'm gonna make you go at disadvantage because you're grappling Bernal. But go
Fair
ahead
enough,
and
fair
make a kick attack. So that'll just add your strength bonus.
7.
That is not enough. He does. Not only does he kind of skid out of the way, he suddenly catches his grip, and inertia just causes him to tumble a couple times, and he just tumbles out of the way of your boot. And it is now Talmud's turn. Bernal is caught up, grappled in Griveth's arms, having just bashed you upside the head. Talmud, what are you going to do?
Talmud is still kind of reeling, having like taken a knee from this blow that Bernal delivered with his spiked club, and he kind of shakes his head and kind of spits down on the ground. A little bit of spittle with like blood in it kind of comes out, gets kind of stuck in his beard, and he starts kind of shaking. And we can see like his hand that's still holding Gerta, the knuckles of that hand kind of turn white as he then kind of pushes himself to his feet with a deep kind of inhale, exhale, as he is going to start to glow, his tattoos becoming more vibrant, as he is going to call upon one of his ancestors, and they're going to take over as he enters rage.
All right.
As this individual stands back up, he kind of turns towards the bugbear, and his glowing eyes kind of almost bulging out of his skull. He sticks his tongue out and kind of licks that spittle, and brings it back into his mouth. And then he goes, and he grips Gerta and runs forward and slams it down, probably on this thing's knee.
All right.
Once again, we'll be reckless attacking. That is a 24.
Well, I think that's absolutely going to hit Bernal the bugbear.
Good. Okay. So, this is 6 and 6 more is 12 points of bludgeoning damage.
You bring Gerta around, cracking it into Bernal's knee. And Griveth, you feel Bernal kind of shift his weight down a bit as that knee cracks, and he just...
And Talmud, or not Talmud, kind of gets real close to the bugbear's face. How does it feel? How does it feel?
I'll tell you how it feels. And as he does this, straining, Griveth, you feel the muscles straining against you, as at disadvantage because of the burning head helmet. He is going to attempt to break free of the... That's a at disadvantage. That's a 6.
Oh boy.
He cannot break free.
Okay. So essentially, if I win another grapple roll against the target, they are now pinned and they cannot break free until I allow it.
Well, crap. Okay. Yeah, he's pinned. Cantriel, it's your turn. The air is starting to fill with burning hair scent from this heat metal on his head.
Okay, well then, thinking as my bonus action, I'm gonna do it again, and he's got to try and do a Constitution saving throw against it.
Hold on 1 second. Oops. The con save is just to see if he can hold on to the object while it's burning. So
Okay.
he's taking the damage no matter what.
Okay, well, I'm going to stab him with my rapier, and then I'm going to make him burn a little more.
Oh.
How's that?
Now, I need to check one other thing real quick. That
Okay.
should have been the case with Talmud. So, just becomes zero. Condition ends. Huh.
Oh!
Okay. What?
I got my rapier!
Okay. Nobody heard what you just said. You just blew your microphone out.
I got a 20 on my rapier.
I should have assumed as much from your screaming.
Sorry, I got excited.
All right, so the pinned Bernal can do nothing but stand there as you run your rapier into him for a critical hit.
Yeah. Okay, so then, so it's going to start off getting 11 points plus, so it's going to be 13 points piercing with the rapier.
13?
Mm-hmm. And then the fire damage is another 8.
Bernal is in pretty bad shape as he's now just held firmly in Griveth's embrace. The smoke is starting to pour from under the helm. Blood is leaking out where you pierced him through. Griveth, it's your turn.
All right. So he's witnessing all, Griveth is right up there witnessing all this because and then like the smoke is, like you say, the smoke's starting to pour out of his helm, and it's just the stench is, I can imagine, is just horrible. So, he basically, Griveth is like trying to he's doing this little dance where he's like, he sees them coming at him with their weapons. He's trying to turn the guy, he's trying to turn Bernal to towards, so that he's not a target, it's like, he's just he's basically behind, only his arms are coming around. So he's basically behind this guy, like twisting him around like a rag doll, trying to get him in line of their attacks and everything. So he is just going to maintain this grab. Now, I was kind of wanting to, as far as the pin, to bring him down. So maybe would you allow that? Maybe I put my foot in front of him and kind of trip him and bring him to the ground and pin him on the ground.
I think just since Talmud pretty much took his knee out, if you just kind of pull down on him, he's going to drop to his knees, and you can just kind of roll him right down to the ground.
Okay, yeah. So I'm just going to get him in this unbreakable pin lock that I learned in my wrestling days, and we used to wrestle in the mud for money during in the war camps when we were waiting for the battles. We would be we'd muddy ourselves up and our loincloths and mud, and it was a sight to behold. In my younger days, it was a sight to behold. Now I'm all scarred and messed up, but so but I still have those skills. I still have those amazing wrestling skills that I learned on the trail, in the okay, I'll end this now.
It is now
So,
canon.
so
It's now
basically I've got him
canon
on the
that
ground.
Griveth in his younger days was a Faerun, part of the Faerun Wrestling Federation.
Yes, exactly. So,
Sword Coast, all Sword Coast champion.
so now
at
we
the
have to think of
Baldur's
a
Gate
name.
Invitational.
Now I want to invite the viewers to think of a name, his wrestling name, when he was a champion earlier in his youth. To come up with a good name for Griveth when he was a wrestling champion.
All right, chat, do your thing. Go ahead and throw out some ideas there for Griveth's wrestling name. So you've brought Bernal down. Vi in the corner, standing there, begins to scream. An ear-piercing scream that I will not replicate, since V already blew everybody's ears out. But she just opens her mouth and just... her eyes still glowing white. And as she screams, she holds her hands out like this. And... let's see, that would be 3, 4. Hold on. What level? I don't want to tip my hand with this. I forgot to look up the level real quick. As this happens, I just need to get the number correct. I know how to read alphabetically.
Just to fill dead air while you're doing that.
1, 2, 3.
Talmud is actually like relishing as she's screaming. He's kind of like twirling around, almost like, Shawshank Redemption, kind of just looking up into the sky, just kind of like he's soaking this in and enjoying it immensely.
So, as Vi is screaming and she holds her hands out like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 magic missiles go hurling out from her hands as she's screaming and just kind of and they just, and every single one of them finds Bernal, and every single one of them targets his head and the helm as brilliant light. Every missile coming in is of these 7: red, orange, yellow, blue, green, indigo, violet, every color of the rainbow spectrum. As these things just impact, it's fortunate for you, Griveth, that Bernal's bulky body is shielding you from the blowback. And when you can all see again after this brilliance subsides, the antlered helm is a piece of slag lying on the ground where Bernal's head was only moments before. In your arms, Griveth, Bernal quivers with the last few shakes of death tremors. Vi stops screaming, but still stands there, hands outstretched, trembling. As at this point, Bernal is down. It is Fang's turn, and I'm fairly certain. No, that rat is so stupid. The rat is still going to attempt an attack. I was trying to see if it would take off, but this thing is giant. It's feral. It is going to go for Cantriel. And that is going to be a 22 to hit Cantriel.
Can I try to deflect it?
I'm going to say that you can't, because you're still gripping. You still have Bernal, and your shield's kind of in disarray, as you described it. You wouldn't have time to intercede. So, Cantriel, you will take
Reroll.
I was
Reroll.
gonna say,
9 points of piercing damage
too late.
as this thing bites into you. And it is your turn, Talmud. This rat has just seeming to have taken advantage of the assault on the barrage on Bernal, and has just kind of come around and bit into Cantriel. What are you gonna do?
Talmud, seeing that Bernal is kind of falling to the ground, goes over to where his head is and like leans over this smoldering like mess and just like he's like breathing it in, like wafting it into his nose. And then he takes the head of Goethe and just like pushes it down inside this mess and just almost like swirls it around and then pulls it out so that it's just like covered in this stuff, and then goes and he turns and runs over to this other rat and strikes.
All right.
Recklessly, of course. Oof. I'm gonna burn a domain dice.
Okay. We'll take you down to 16.
There we go. All right, that is 21.
That is a hit.
What? All right. So crazy ass is going to deal 6 and 6 is 12 points of bludgeoning again.
All right. Once again, how do you end this? You muted up.
Sorry. Talmud kind of comes over to this rat that has once again attacked Cantriel and brings this dripping, gooey, viscerally covered Goethe up and down straight on this thing's back, like right in front of its pelvis. And there's just this visible and audible snap. And then he just kind of goes over and starts like pulling on this thing's skin, trying to just peel it off of its bones before it actually dies.
Yeah, you just go feral. You go tribal on this thing. So Bernal's dead. The rats are dead. Vi is shaking in the corner. And Talmud is apparently in a bit of a rage. And is literally with his hands shredding this rat. Griveth and Cantriel, what's your reaction to this?
I'm backing away, like slowly, like trying not to catch his attention at this point, because I'm recognizing this is not the dwarf I know. This might be one of his ancestors, and as far as I know, they're not nuts about my kind.
I was kind of wrestling with it, this corpse, and his head suddenly imploded from this magical force, and I'm just trying to react to make sure I'm not next, I'm not the target of this barrage. And so as I kind of roll free, I look up and I see Cantriel in a pretty dangerous, because Talmud is like freaking out, going crazy, and the rat, is still a threat to her. And so, yeah, I'm seeing this.
All right. So Talmud, how long do you carry on? And I'm sorry, I was looking something up. Who did you go to, or did you go to somebody, Griveth? You're muted.
It's not my initiative, right?
No, you're out of initiative.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so when I roll free, sorry, I didn't understand that. Okay, when I roll free, I kind of scramble up to, I see Cantriel like backing up. I kind of scramble up to put myself between her, the rat, and our crazed friend, and I kind of glance over and see Vi, and I'm just this definitely seems like more important at the moment, right? So so I'm kind of in a defensive position, not threatening, but kind of in a defensive position, and so Talmud, how much danger are we in?
Talmud wheels on the two of you, especially with Griveth kind of making a bit of noise and clanking by in his armor. He kind of looks up from where he's like peeling the flesh and muscle off of this rat, and he's probably even like biting into some of it. Not that he's really eating it. It just seems like he's just bent on just destruction. He kind of looks up, this nastiness kind of hanging from his face, and kind of bends down with these slippery, blood-covered hands to pick up Gerta, and he takes about 4 steps towards you guys before you can kind of see something shift in his demeanor, and he kind of falters, and his eyes stop glowing, and his tattoos stop glowing, and he looks down at Gerta in his hands, and he kind of drops Gerta on the ground. Oh, and he kind of runs over to a wall and exits his stomach, expels his stomach even.
Looks like our friend is out of his particular mania.
Family member that was. I sure as hell want to meet him again.
I look at Cantriel and I see what you've been dealing with for these days.
Well, just call me the elfin pincushion. Or chew toy at this rate.
V, you got really quiet all of a sudden.
Because I was told I was being too loud.
Oh, just when you screamed into the microphone.
No, in the chat they're like getting too loud. So all right, hold on a minute.
Don't listen to them about that.
I feel like I'm dealing with my kids. You're too loud. No, I'm kidding. Is that better?
It's the whispery elf voice.
My life force is draining out of me. Okay, better?
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
So yeah, I see what you're dealing with. We better help Vi. What do you think's going on? Did you know she had this power? What did she do? How did she do that? I thought she was a person of the woods, of the lands. How does she cast arcane power?
Druids have power that many of us don't even understand. And quite frankly, she's been bottling things up, so I'm not surprised to see her being able to do something like this, because let's face it, she isn't exactly fully transparent with us, her abilities.
Cantriel and Griveth, give me Arcana checks.
Yeah.
13.
16. Sorry.
Griveth, something about the powers that Vi was manifesting, they're not... You don't know much, but you've been with her long enough, and you're kind of coming into your own magics, as it were. But something seems off about these abilities. Like, they don't seem to have come from her druidic nature. But you can't quite put your finger on it.
Yeah, knowing her these years, I'm surprised. I didn't expect it to be her when I finally, all the whirlwind of activity that was going on around me, and I realized that it was coming from her and her situation, what she, the state she's in, and we realized that it was her. Like, yeah, I was like, I've never seen this kind of thing from her.
And as she stands there, with her eyes still glowing, she just kind of looks around, and she kind of turning her head sharply, cocking her head side to side, And then she goes, just you see tears streaming down her eyes, and she's, no, there's so much blood. It can't have been me. Who are you? And then she starts to cry out again, and the cry is a wail. And as it turns into this howl, Vi shapeshifts into a gray-furred wolf that sits there howling for a moment, its eyes glowing white. And then it sort of, and it kind of sits up, and it does that thing where a canine kind of shakes itself, and then it kind of pads around, sniffing the ground around it, and it pads over to you, Griveth, and it sniffs at your hand and sort of wags its tail a little bit. And at least for the time being, Vi is a wolf companion for you guys. So, I would like to just take a brief moment. We gave the chat a mission. And before we go on too far, I'm going to see if it will let me scroll far enough back. Looks like we've got, whoa, it's scrolling weird. I see Bruce Leroy. Oh man, that one's shifting too much. You guys want to help me out? If anybody's in the chat, I'm gonna bring this over here a minute so I can actually see it. So we've got, saw Bruce Leroy in there as one of the names.
There's Griveth the Eternal Grasp.
Griveth, bringer of naps.
Yep, that one sounds weird.
Nature Boy Griveth.
Yeah.
Nature Boy Griveth.
Angel of Wrath.
Griveth the Knight of Smite.
That's a good one. The Lawful Good Loincloth. Was that supposed to be one, Jeremy?
Yep, the Lawful Good Loincloth.
We got
Captain
Griveth
Spanks.
the Giver, or Griveth the Giver, and
There's
Griveth
Captain
the Golden
Spanks.
Boy.
Yep.
I
Golden
think
Boy Griveth.
these commented church giggles. I think that should be it.
That was my fit of laughter.
Nature Boy Griveth.
So, which one do you favor there, Scotty?
What do you guys think?
You know what? I'm going to here's what I'll do. Because I don't want to hold the game up too much. I will go through the chat and I will find these names, and I will, when I find them, if you're not already following at MTD_Jake on Twitter, I will make a Twitter poll tomorrow, and we will have the Twitter audience vote on what your wrestling name was in Faerun High School. So yeah, we'll do that.
Which means Jeremy has to create an account now.
We're trying to get you over on
He's like, no.
over on Twitter, Jeremy.
When you stare into the abyss stares back into you.
Okay, so Vi is now a wolf companion for you guys. You have a headless bugbear, some very, very destroyed. Okay, somebody, Jeremy just put Brett Sanderson in there. If you tuned in for the Kids on Bikes RPG Halloween special Jack-O-Lantern, Brett Sanderson was the name of the high school jock that was a bully to the the main characters. And we'll just say that Brett got what was coming to him, perhaps. So that's a nice callback, Jeremy. I like that. A little inside joke. So I need, Cantriel's taken a few bites from rats here. Has taken
Yeah,
some.
can I do a cure wounds on myself?
Actually, I need you to make a Constitution saving throw.
Of course you do. And that is going to be an 11.
You feel like you're you just for a moment you feel dizzy. Your vision gets blurry. You are disoriented. You get the chills. Ugh. But when you kind of shiver involuntarily from these chills, it passes. You just succeeded on the saving throw against catching a disease from these rats.
Lovely. Can I cure myself now with some wounds?
Yeah, that's why I needed to check, because this disease would have hindered your ability to take full healing.
Oh, great. Well, even better. All right.
So I kind of kneeled, and and I did like, when you coax an animal over, and Vi came over, and we're kind of realizing something's seriously wrong. I look back at Talmud and I'm like, Talmud, are you, and I say, Talmud, are you okay?
I'll be, yeah, I don't really understand what exactly happened, but I think I'm okay. I feel, oh.
Did you have a relative with a taste for rats?
Not that I'm aware
Or
of.
blood, or guts, or skin, or gore, or just someone who seems to like his things mushy and bloody?
There is someone in my family who I didn't think he was still around, but that's cousin Torkenfell. He's well, nobody's overly sad that he's gone.
Well,
to tell the truth,
he's quite charming, so it's no surprise to hear they don't want him around much. I think
so it was. So rat is what I was.
Rat pelt, rat skin, rat gut, rat blood, bugbear, something or other that you shot and swirled around a wee bit with your mace.
Picks like some rat fur out of his teeth. Sorry, Griveth, there was a question you had. He kind of wiping the blood off of his hands.
We've been meeting your ancestors.
Yes, of course. Some of them, I hope, have not been quite as bad.
No, you have managed to take yourself back when you haven't gone past the line of no return as far as the ancestors, but
that's good.
Yeah, we've definitely seen them.
It tends to only last as long as my anger does. Thankfully, usually that's only as long as the fighting lasts.
But we want you also to know that you and your ancestors have saved us.
He kind of almost looks proud at this and kind of like puts his shoulders back a little. Well, I'm very happy to hear that.
Things could have been much worse.
He kind of looks over at this melted head, like this massive like skull and gore and metal. Yes, I can see. Hopefully, what did that?
That would have been a wee bit of me and a lot of bit of Vi. Is she nearby me in her wolf form?
She's just kind of padding around. She's sniffing at the dead bugbear. She's acting more like a dog than a wolf, but seems pretty comfortable in your presence.
Probably because her memory, her deep memories are that we're friends. We're part of her pack.
Yeah.
We're her friends, and she relates to us. Yeah. Talmud.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, Talmud. I saw you take a rather nasty blow. Your ancestor just powered right through it. Didn't even flinch in combat. I've rarely seen that in battle where someone has done that. Do you have a healing drought? Do you have something to heal yourself with?
No, I only brought one potion and I already drank it.
What about the ones we found in the chest?
Did you have one from that?
If I did, I did not write it down. Was there one for everybody?
No,
or maybe
2, I think.
Oh, I don't think I ended up with one.
Okay, I'll give you mine.
Okay.
So you can immune that.
That's 2d4 plus 2, and you can roll that, Jeremy.
Okay, he'll take it somewhat sheepishly. Okay, so that is 6 points back.
We want you to be as healthy as possible. We want. I'm sure we'll need your help, friend dwarf.
There's no shame in getting help when you need it.
No, that is so true, Cantriel.
Well, sometimes the help comes at a price, I'm afraid.
We all understand that.
Thank you. And he kind of, in a moment of extreme sincerity for Talmud, he kind of says that to Griveth.
And Griveth bows. Talmud, have you seen? I know you're new to the town and everything, and you didn't know Vi very well, but have you ever seen anything like this where someone would take an animal form and lose themselves in the form and become?
Wait, I don't see Vi. He's kind of looking around.
Oh, here she is, and she kind of pads around, and she's just like a dog standing there.
Oh, I see. I thought maybe it was just the elk that she could do, but she's got other. Well, that is very interesting. No, it's not something I've ever seen before.
It is far beyond my experience. I do not know the ways of the nature, the secret ways of the druids of nature.
Talmud kind of leans closer to Cantriel and kind of like stage whispers, I thought she said she hated animals.
Well, maybe not all animals, but something tells me that seeing our good friend Bernal triggered something in her.
And all of us.
To say the least.
That's where she released all her power to his head.
Oh.
That's what caused the mess. That's what caused the ruin of his head.
Well, I'll be employing a bit more manners, I suppose, around her.
Probably not a bad idea.
I had no idea she seemed so meek and mild, and
it's always the quiet ones that sometimes have the most power, though.
Maybe something else is channeling through her. Could this be some ploy or plot to infiltrate our group? And maybe when we are at our, least vigilant, she will turn on us.
Well, I think it's safe to say many of us here are fighting demons of our own making.
Fair enough.
Dealing with something on her own that she hasn't quite revealed to us.
She could be a danger to us.
as could you, as could he.
She's, as you say this, she could be a danger to us. She's literally doing, if she didn't have the form of a wolf, you might think she was like a husky, like a young husky. She's just kind of bounding around the room, sniffing at things. And she kind of moves towards that opening where Bernal came from in the north wall, kind of sniffs around the opening. She runs to the southeastern corner where there's a closed door, and she kind of sniffs at that. She runs back up to the northern part of the eastern wall where the door is slightly ajar where some of the skeletons escape through. And she kind of sniffs around that, sticking her head in and pulling back and kind of looking back at you guys, as that was my way of just reminding you your 3 exits.
Thank you.
So
Yes,
yeah,
thank
you've got the north where Bernal came from, and then you've got 2 doors, one to the south and one to the east.
Um,
I'm not saying you have to leave. I'm just saying that's your reminder.
does she respond to Vi when we call her? Does she
Bye,
respond to that?
darling. Bye, are you okay?
Her ears kind of perk up when you say her name, and she just kind of looks at you like,
Come here, Vi.
make an animal handling check.
I get to pet the puppy! With a 5.
She does not come to you when you call her.
He came to you first, Griveth. See if you can bring her back over.
So he gives all the signs of, a friend, his face goes soft and he speaks to her in a soft voice and lowers himself down so he's not intimidating.
Make an animal handling check.
Uh-oh. There it is.
No grappling the puppy dog.
Oh. Sorry, I gotta check my sheet. Check my sheet. Oh, okay. That is a 19, actually.
In her wolf form, she kind of comes padding over to you, but not directly as you're crouched down. She kind of just zigzags, kind of heading towards you, and stops to sniff at one of the severed rat heads laying on the ground, and then moves over to a dead twig blight, sniffs at that, moves over to another dead twig blight, and eventually makes her way to you, where she kind of nuzzles into your hand and sort of playfully nips at it, kind of bites at your hand, but not enough to draw blood, just enough to be a nip. And,
So should we
sort of sits back on her haunches in front of you.
So guys, should we do a short rest while we're doing all this?
Well, I don't think it would hurt me. Let's put it that way.
I could use a moment to sit down and gather myself a little, clean myself off a bit.
Perfect.
Too. I'm not full, so I could too.
Yeah, you guys can go ahead and take the benefits of a short rest.
And the benefit of Song of Rest, too.
Okay, I
Well,
nuzzle with.
In order to get the benefits of a Song of Rest, they need to hear a Song of Rest.
All right, gotta think about what I'm going to sing here. Let's see here. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to see if I can kind of sit close to Vi, so she also kind of can get some benefit of calmingness. And Cantriel's just going to start singing. Stars shining bright above you. Night breezes seem to whisper, I love you. Birds singing in the sycamore tree. Dream a little dream of me. And then everybody gets a D6 to add to their short rest.
And as you are singing that song, Vi in her wolf form she had kind of laid down with her head on her paws, And as you start singing, she kind of does that thing where a dog will kind of move forward a little bit. And if you look at her, she stops. And you're singing, and eventually she gets up close to you. And as you're finishing your song, she is curled up next to you and has her head on your lap.
I'm going to lean down and just kind of hug her. And it's like one of those still hugs, like just kind of cradling her.
And you guys just sort of relax for an hour. Are you keeping any kind of alertness? Where in the room, as a reminder, you're in a large 60-foot by 60-foot room. And you guys had kind of dropped in from the well on the southwestern corner. And your three entrances are kind of over on the eastern side to the north, east, and the south. Would you move to a corner of the room? Perhaps?
Since this was a well at one point, is there any part where there's still water gathered at all?
It wasn't a well in the sense of a water well. It was just a well as in a hole through the ground that leads to this new area.
Okay.
But remember, this is a sort of underground garden. There's lots of moss and bushes and even a few trees growing up along the edges.
But no standing water.
No, there is not any standing water in this room.
Okay. Talmud is going to kind of make his way over close to the wall somewhere and use some of the water from his water skin to wash off his hands and the head of Gerta. The head of Gerta, he almost washes off almost ceremoniously, trying his best to clean all of the nastiness off as he can. And it's a pretty somber task.
Does he check the bugbear for treasure?
He might afterwards.
The only thing, well, actually, you find nothing of value on the bugbear himself. I mean, his leather armor is in pretty sad shape. And his morning star is large, kind of unwieldy, not really in great shape. I mean, it's usable, but it's mechanically it's a morning star, which I believe Griveth already has. So an hour passes, and nobody seems to come in to this area, and you guys are left for an hour, so you gain whatever if you used any hit dice or whatever, and you get that d6 bonus to heal up. So an hour passes. What would you like to do? You've got 3 points of egress from this room. Remember, Bernal and his rats came from the opening to the north.
There is also a call for inspiration coming from the YouTube chat.
Oh, in fact, there is. As I have admitted before, I'm terrible of remembering to award inspiration. The chat has spoken, and Cantriel.
Thank you.
Cantriel, you get inspiration for your Song of Inspiration, your Song of Rest.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy, for pointing that out.
Absolutely.
My chat that consolidates both chats moves slowly.
Oh.
It's like a delay.
And it's over here on my other screen. So if you want to help me get a bigger screen so I can see better, support Mini Terrain Domain on Patreon.
Why not?
Because that's one of the early levels of goals is to make some hardware upgrades. And I've got my eye on a little bit larger 4K screen that will give me a lot more view. So an hour has passed. Where would you guys like to go?
Well, gentlemen, which way seems to be most Logical place.
I don't know. Do we take the direct way that Bernal came from, or do we explore these other doors, which doesn't seem to have been necessarily always to our advantage?
I think we should find out where Bernal was hiding. He obviously felt safe there.
That
because
makes
he ran
sense.
from us the first time.
Yes, that makes sense.
So
Agreed.
maybe there's something worth investigating this way.
Certainly not a bad idea at all, quite frankly.
All right. I say we do it.
So you're going to head to the north.
Aye.
So you go to the north side of the room where the opening is. And as I said before, this is kind of a about a 10-foot wide rough opening in the otherwise dwarven carved walls of this chamber. Loose stone kind of around the area. It goes in about 10 feet, and you see it kind of opens up into a very rough cavern that is, at its widest, is about 30 feet. It's about 40 feet deep. You can see about 40 feet on the other side of this rough chamber. You see a narrow passageway curving away into darkness with a purple illumination coming out of it. Tucked into an alcove to the right, to the east, is a couple of crude nests that look about the size of what... Well, you've actually seen nests like this because you've encountered quite a few of the giant rats in the Citadel. This looks like it may be where Grip and Fang nested. Just beyond that is another alcove with a moldering bedroll and some things sitting loosely around there. This chamber is the walls and floor of it are stained with what looks like old blood stains, and there is that irony smell of blood and just that musky animal odor that fill this area. And then you see that there is along one wall there is near where this moldering pallet is. There's a board has been a few boards have been crudely hammered together and are serving as a sort of almost like a weapons rack, where you see a variety of weapons affixed to it, and there's a great cloak of this like patchy black fur hanging from a pole. And that is what you guys see from entering the room.
Are there any pole arms?
So what you see that is on this makeshift weapons rack are 2 spears, 6 javelins, a long sword, and a great sword. So those are all mundane weapons if anybody is interested.
I think Talmud will walk over and grab 2 additional javelins to add to the 4 that he already carries.
All right. Give me a perception check. Now that you're over there.
Just Jeremy?
And anybody else, if you went to the weapons rack or over by the sleeping pallet, you can give me a perception or investigation check.
I got a grand total of 11.
All right. The black, furry, patchy cloak that's hanging there looks like it's made of rat furs, all sewn together, and not giant rats either. It looks like it's made from like just hundreds of rat pelts. What about Cantriel or Griveth? Did you guys roll investigation or perception?
I got a 13.
Griveth?
I got a 14.
All right, yeah, you pretty much, you guys just see those weapons on the rack. There's that, just, it looks nasty. If it were modern times, it would literally be a stained mattress on the floor kind of thing, where Bernal slept. And then there's, the only other thing is there's that narrow tunnel to the north.
I'm watching Vi as she's kind of padding around. Is she reacting any way to his smell?
I'm going to have you make a perception check at advantage.
Oh, advantage.
Because she has keen smell. And that's going to be a +3 to whatever you roll.
Oh, okay. So 20.
She's sniffing around at the rat nests, and she's sniffing around. She ends up coming around over to the moldering pallet where Bernal slept, and there's this moth-eaten wool blanket laying across near the foot of it, and she's kind of sniffing at it, and then she kind of grabs it in her teeth and pulls it to the side, revealing a small wooden box.
I see it. She reveals it, and then I pat her on the head. Like she's been acting so much like a dog, like Griveth is beginning to think of her as like an animal, not, and he just instinctively just pats her on the head, and then kind of realizes, oh, wait a minute, I'm not, she's a person. And then he picks up this box and he's kind of looking at it.
As you pick it up, you can hear the sound of coins sliding around inside it. It has no lock, just a simple latch on it.
Okay. I kind of put it back like this and then pop the lid.
All right. How many dice is in a fireball? No, I'm just kidding.
Have we learned nothing yet?
1d4.
1d4. No, it opens up, nothing happens, and inside you find 241 silver pieces and 54 gold pieces.
All right. I kind of pop the lid back, and I turn around and I say, I look down at Talmud and I say, friend, you value these, and I hand him the box.
Boxes? No, I don't really place much value in boxes.
No, what's in the box, friend?
Any kind of ching ching ching. Oh,
There you go.
Oh yes, I'll store that with the rest of them. And
Maybe some
we're
profit
speaking
from this
Talmud.
adventure after all.
let us hope so.
My profit is purely spiritual.
I'll remember that when we're dividing these.
All right. So what do you like to do? You got a narrow passage descending into dark, or not descending, but twisting into darkness, and you have the way in which you came. Those are the only two exits.
Oh, how's it smell down there, as Gandalf would say?
Down the tunnel?
Yeah.
So it's a very narrow tunnel, and there is a cold, dank air kind of moving a little bit through there. There's spots of the purple fungus growing along the way, and it just has a very earthy scent to it. As you step into the entrance, Vi in her wolf form kind of moves protectively in front of your legs, not completely stopping you, but like almost like a guide dog would try to stop its charge from moving.
I I know this hasn't worked well in the past, but Talmud, you can see in the dark, and you're smaller than the rest of me. I'm gonna have a bit of a trouble in here. Um, do you think it would be wise for you to go check it out a little bit?
Wise?
Like some
No,
light, maybe?
probably not. But I'm sensing the theme here, and you're asking for Talmud, myself, to go first. So, why not?
Okay. So how does Cantriel feel about that?
I'm just gonna sigh and I'm going to oh, what am I gonna what did you said your javelins, right?
I do have javelins.
All right, I'm going to put my hand on one of the javelins and raise an eyebrow and cast light on it.
Oh, do we want to do that? Maybe we want him to be in the dark. Because he can see in the dark. We can't. Oh, you can, right? You can see in the dark,
I
right?
can see in the dark. he
Oh,
can
I'm
see
the
in
only
dark.
idiot that can't. Okay.
You can't see in the dark,
Yeah.
so maybe someone who can see in the dark moving forward would be okay with the light behind him, so that the person behind him can see in the dark.
Well, what I'm saying is we send Talmud in first. I know we've had problems with it in the past, but it couldn't possibly happen again, right?
Well, speaking as one who was shot in the leg with an arrow, I'm not exactly keen for myself to have to go first, but he's also gone
Oh, we're
first
not
a
asking
couple
you to go
times.
first. No.
Talmud,
Talmud shakes his head and just turns and starts walking down the tunnel.
Talmud, give me a I'm gonna say give me a survival check.
Okay, so survival's wisdom base, so that's a 17 total.
You just start to head down this tunnel. It's very narrow. At places, it's only wide enough that you kind of have to turn sideways and shuffle through. You know that Griveth might have trouble maneuvering through here. And you go a good 30, 40 feet down this passageway. And a familiar scent is sort of filling your nostrils. It's not that it's unpleasant per se, but as a dwarf who spends a lot of time underground, you have been close to the Underdark. This tunnel leads deep into the Underdark. And it's getting pretty narrow even for you to navigate through it. It would take considerable work to get your party through this way, said the DM, saying, don't go that way. It goes off the map.
Yeah, Talmud gets to a certain spot where he's kind of shuffling sideways through and he kind of gets stuck a little. Oh, it's the clothing. He kind of sucks his chest in. It kind of backs down the hallway, coming back the direction they came. It's not a good idea for us to go down there. That leads to. Have you ever heard of a place called the Underdark?
Of course.
In Legends, yes. Horrible place.
Well, there you go. That's how you get there. And we really shouldn't venture that way, at least not yet.
I don't think our fate leads us that way now.
Well, and I think you guys might remember that the goblin matron, when you were spending some time with her, she explained that the hobgoblins and even Belloc allowed them occasionally to descend down and go through the tunnels to the Underdark where they would hunt, and that's where they got the fungus that they use for light, as well as it's edible. So that's more likely than not how the goblins, being much smaller than Talmud, are able to slip down into there and probably go hunting in the Underdark.
You all also realize that although Talmud blamed his armor for being the cause, that he's actually not wearing any.
We're being kind to our little friend.
Okay, so we go
So
back to the rat room.
Sounds like a
That-
club.
So, yeah, your only exit outside of where Bernal and the rats were staying is back into the underground garden area, where there are two doors. One to the east that is slightly ajar where the skeletons ran through, and one to the south. Both are thick wooden doors banded in iron.
Well, it seems Vi was rather good at giving us a slight warning of where not to go. Maybe she has an idea of where we could go.
Yes. That's not a bad idea.
She was sniffing at that open door before.
This
To
is
be
true.
fair, she was sniffing at all three openings.
Maybe she'll be partial to one over the other.
And the skeletons did run to the one door, which they are usually animated by some kind of person that uses foul magic. So that might maybe that's the sign. Maybe they're leading us to where we need to go.
Back to the source.
Their foulness actually, yes, back to the source, Cantriel.
So we're opting to follow them back to the person who commands life and death. That's what
It's
you're
not
recommending.
wise, no.
But
that's
we've also
but that
just
is our
fought
path.
a bugbear that we had let go earlier, and then also had killed a wormling. So it's not exactly like we make the best decisions anyway. So let's just see what happens.
You know, I like the spirit that you're adopting, Cantriel. And he kind of turns and heads towards the open door.
All right.
You
You're
should just kind of like screw it with these nutters.
Pretty much.
So,
If you can't beat him, join him, right?
Yeah.
so Talmud, you're just going to go through the door? I mean,
Of course.
it's already
Oh, yeah.
open. The skeleton's already open.
I mean, I love the loaded question, but yes, absolutely.
Are you already gonna, like in that room? So you move closer to the trapped fountain?
Yes.
So you move closer to the fire trap door? Talmud heads through the door. And what you see is a room that is, it opens into a room that is about a little bit longer than the room the big room, or maybe about as long as the room you just came from, but not nearly as wide. It's only about 20 feet wide, but 60 feet long. And actually, there's a certain familiarity to this room, as you've already been to two rooms similar to this, as you see two rows of dragon carved marble columns reaching from the floor to the ceiling, the length of this hall. Most of them are completely covered in the luminescent purple fungus. The cobbled floor is cracked and stained, and all throughout this chamber are numerous small wooden tables. The contents on these tables include mortars and pestles, small tools, bowls filled with crushed leaves, chopped fungus stalks, and other plant specimens. And there are many doors, all partially open, 3 along the north and 3 along the south. What would you like to do?
Find less doors.
So many doors. So many doors.
You know, I would love to understand how much they paid the cleaning services in a place like this.
You call this clean?
No, before, when dwarves actually ran this place. Can you imagine what it would have been like then? He kind of gets excited and kind of starts wandering over to the pillars to kind of examine them closer.
I'm sure it looked rather magnificent in its prime.
Sure doesn't now.
Sad to say. Well, once again, the hallway of many doors and lots of tables. Any ideas, gentlemen?
You can just faintly hear coming from the northwest door. and it sounds like more than one sets of snoring. Everybody roll me a nature or... Yeah, just roll me a nature check.
$22.
I got a 10.
Not survival.
Nope, just nature.
11.
Cantriel, you remember, you've heard these sounds fairly recently when you spent some times up in Goblinville resting. It sounds like goblin snores.
Well, I believe we've come upon sleeping goblins.
You also can hear from the central door to the north, you hear a real subtle sort of a light hammering sound on metal.
Do we all hear this or just me?
Oh no, everybody can hear it.
Okay.
You can hear other sounds coming from other doors that are a little difficult to identify. But it sounds like there's a bit of activity. And actually, there are a couple of skeletons in this room that had previously run out. Their shovels and rakes abandoned. They are on the far end to the east of this room, and they are working at a couple of the tables, mashing leaves and things in mortars and pestles. One is just kind of moving things in and looks on a scales and weighing them. So you've got some snoring coming from a room. You can hear sounds. The snoring's coming from the northwest. You hear the tinkering sounds coming from the north central area. And then you can hear from a couple of the other rooms just kind of shuffling, like from the immediately to the south of you in the southwest room. You actually hear a bit of a splorching sound is what you hear. But it's more not like a loud, heavy splorch. It's more like a...
You and splorches. No. No. No.
So yeah, what do you guys want to do?
I do not want to go near the splorching sound.
What do the skeletons do?
The skeletons are just working at
Cooking meth.
some of the tables.
They don't react to us at all.
No, remember they didn't react to you previously, other than to look at you when Vi fell down the well. They didn't attack you until the twig blights attacked you.
So until we engage, it seems they'll leave us alone.
So what do you want to do, guys? We could get a jump on those goblins and find out what the heck is going on. The skeleton's not going to tell us.
Well, obviously not, but
The sleeping goblins would be easy to nab and find out what's going on.
Well, that sound in Talmud is almost like he's enchanted, is kind of walking towards the hammer on metal sound.
And you guys would all notice as you kind of move a little bit, even Talmud would notice, with your nature checks, you all rolled well enough that on these tables that are scattered around the room, there are a lot of common varieties of tree, shrub, and fungus that you might normally see above ground. Typical, some leaves or saplings of elm, birch, oak, walnut, You see some like sassafras bush, elderberry, but every one of them has a sickly pallor to it. They don't look healthy. Talmud, you're moving toward the sound of the tinkering. The door is slightly ajar. Are you moving quietly? If so, give me a stealth check.
I don't think stealth is necessarily Talmud's Talmud's way. So, kind of keeping a wary eye on the skeletons, he's just gonna plod right on over to the door.
It's open inward slightly, and you can still hear that. Do you open the door so you can see inside? I mean, it's open, but only slightly.
Yeah, I mean, if it sounds like it's, especially if it sounds like it's close to the other side of the door, he's kind of hoping he might find some dwarves in here.
What you see are two goblin commoners. Thin, almost emaciated, wearing dirty leather aprons at a couple of benches. One is sitting with bone needle and rat gut thread, sewing at some crude leather armor. The other is tinkering away, repairing. Looks like there's an assortment of crude weapons on the table and armor that it's working at repairing. And as the door squeaks open, they just both stop and stare at you.
He kind of is taken back for a second, not having found what he was expecting. And then in Goblin, he says, he just says, "It's fine. Your matron has already spoken to us. We'll be on our way."
Give me a persuasion check.
I'm actually not half bad. 12 total.
And they kind of look at you like, what? As they say, You speak to Matron Grenell. She let you come down here.
Yeah, and he'll actually regale a brief version of the tale of how they defeated the hobgoblins and the bugbears.
So, as you hear Griveth and Cantriel, you hear Talmud from this room. Really, all you can hear is Talmud's voice with occasional interjections from the goblins, just with that. What are you guys doing?
I'm trying not to laugh.
Right, but what's your character doing?
I'm trying not to laugh.
I'm looking over at Cantriel and just hearing this gibbly-gook, and the fact that the alarm isn't raised, so something must be going right. And I just kind of shrug.
You hear a shift in the splorching sound to the southwest, Cantriel and Griveth. And then you hear wet feet plodding along the ground as a couple of goblin commoners come through the door to the southwest. Their feet are stained almost bloody red, and you can smell that vinegary scent of the goblin wine that you had encountered before. They walk across the floor towards the sound of Talmud's voice, leaving these red-stained footprints across the floor. From the south central chamber, a couple more goblins come through the door, walking into the hall. They look at each other, these goblins. They look at the two of you, and they just walk towards the room where Talmud is telling this, which now in my head, I'm picturing C-3PO telling the Ewoks the story of their adventures.
Yes.
But instead of the sound effects, it's all of this dwarf communicating in Goblin. And as you finish your tale, Talmud, you find that there are now about 8 goblins, mostly commoners. 1 or 2 of them have scimitars at their belt. But they're all... A couple of them have even come into the room and just sat cross-legged on the floor, listening to you tell the story.
He kind of finishes with it. And he's just kind of talking about the last battle they just had with Bernal and the giant rats.
The goblin, one of the goblins with the armor and the sword, who was just kind of leaning against the doorway. You mean to say you have killed Bernal? And Grip and the Fang are dead?
And he produces Gerta and kind of just not threateningly or menacingly, just kind of produces the head kind of in his direction a little bit. And he says, their blood still stains my hammer, though I tried my best to clean it.
He steps forward. He takes a lick at it. It is true. This is the blood of Bernal and the rats. Matron Grenel has let you come down here. Then you are to deal with Belloc, yes?
Belloc is the one that we killed. Oh, no, he's the druid.
Belloc is the druid.
Right. It is why we are here.
Belloc is bad. Belloc make us goblins be his slaves. Here in his laboratories. We make wine. We repair armors. We look after his plants. He is doing very bad things, perverting our Gothias tree with its magics, blending with other plants that he brings from the surface or he makes us get. He is trying to combine it with the creatures. Come. And he motions for you to follow him to the south central chamber.
Before he does so, Talmud will move back to the door he came into this room from and kind of motion towards the rest of the group. Come on, it's all right.
The rest of the goblin group?
No, the rest of the party.
Oh, well, you're passing right back into the hall. You're going from the north central room, passing right by them to cross the room. And this last few words, the goblin has been speaking in common. Cantriel and Griveth, you have no idea what transpired for the last several minutes other than Talmud was talking to them. But the goblin is speaking in common as he just motions. Come, I show you what Belak do. And he opens the door to the central chamber. There is a wooden bench, much like the larger, but much like the wooden tables out in the main chamber. In the center of this room, each of these rooms are roughly 20 by 20. In this room is, or rather on this wooden bench, is a giant rat. It is strapped down with its paws, front and back paws, strapping it to the surface of this table. Spread eagle. It's alive, but it has horrible tumors all over its body. And each of these tumors have a look. Some of them look like wooden knots that you would find on a tree. Some of them look like almost like rotting fruit trying to grow from its skin. There's even where its whiskers should be, look like those pale vines and stuff, but they're like twigs with little bits of gray leaves from them. Belak, make us do experiments on these creatures. He is trying to infuse that. And he points to the corner of the room where there is a fancy looking crystal vial filled with a sort of amber liquid. He makes that and makes us feed it to them. And it does this. Each one is different. None of them live. He started using the rats when he killed too many goblins. He needed us to do his dirty work. You will stop Belak, yes?
Aye. Talmud walks over to this crystal vial and kind of like knocks it over. Oops.
It shatters, and this amber liquid spills across the ground and starts already to kind of seep into the stone and through the cracks in the mortar. The goblin guard kind of looks up at you, and he just nods. The way to Belak is dangerous. He have many creature. He keep in his control. You will have to be careful. If you go this way, and he brings you out of this room with the rat experiment back into the hall and heads to the northeastern chamber. He opens the door. Inside, you see what looks like a small goblin armory. There are pretty rough-looking scimitars, 5 of them, 6 short bows, several arrows, about 40 arrows, all set up on racks. And there's a door in the northeast corner. You can go this way. This will take you through these Belak's arboretums, where he grows his plants. And eventually, if you go north and then around, you will come to the Twilight Grove. There is even an old dragon shrine that way, but we stay away from there. Or you can go through this way. We have not been down here in a while because he has a creature that guards it, so we don't know for sure if it leads to the grove. But we can smell the Gothias tree through the stone. And he goes to the southeast chamber, opens the door. This room is completely empty. There is a 5 foot wide, 5 foot tall opening in the dwarven stone walls, leading to a tunnel that leads to the south. Either way, you can deal with Balak. If you will permit me, I will take my goblins back to Matron Granel.
Are you angry with this Belloc? You said he has killed many of your kind.
The way of the goblin is simple. We live, we fight, we steal, we kill, we die. We live a life of violence. If goblins die, we make more. But Balak, the things Balak do, and he kind of looks over at Griveth, the human. Is this how all humans are? Using littler creatures to do whatever they will with. There's this goblin. He seems to have more. You see and hear in his words, and you see even in his eyes, a deeper intelligence. You've seen from Matron Granel, she's pretty smart, or she wouldn't be the leader of the goblins. But this goblin, he has this sort of intelligence, but there's something else there that none of you have ever seen in a goblin. You've seen goblins be vicious. You've seen them be scared. You've seen them, some of the commoners maybe cower timidly. But the one thing you've never seen from a goblin until now is sadness. There is a sadness, an almost resigned despair in this goblin's voice as he says, "Is this how your kind treats all of the smaller creatures?" And he's talking to you, Griveth.
Is he speaking in common?
Yeah, he's been speaking
Oh, okay.
common.
Okay. A look of surprise comes over Griveth's face because he's fought in countless wars against these foul little beasties and killed many and seen many slaughtered. He's never really run into this before. Like you say, he's a very unusual goblin. What is your name, little one? What do they call you?
I am called Croak.
That's a very goblin name. So would your people well, first off, your question, I'm sorry. Yes, unfortunately, my people often hurt the weaker I think all races are guilty of that, not just humans. But there are some of us who want something better. We want we want to shine between the space, the cracks. We want to fill in those cracks with light, and we want to raise the potential of every intelligent being, of every thinking being. I often think first with my fists, but I prefer to have this kind of connection with someone where we can connect on a level where we understand each other and where there's peace and we can get along. I thank you for helping us. And for my part, I know many of my people would not say this, but for my part, I pledge myself to do everything I can to help your people. The only thing I would ask is that you don't antagonize us back at the village. If you will promise to live in peace, I shall do everything I can to promise and secure that treaty where we can all live in peace. And I pledge that if you help us now, we will help you.
Make a persuasion roll, and I want to have you do it at advantage.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Oh, those weren't so good.
Well, you do have 16 domain dice.
Yeah, let's use another domain dice.
As I see Talmud over there pointing at the domain dice.
Since I took 15 minutes role playing it.
Let's
Okay,
see. Hold on. I want to make sure I get this right.
Oh, I do have pretty good persuasion. Okay.
All right.
So I did get an 18 that time.
He looks at you. I will do what I can to convince Matron Grenell of what you say. From what the dwarf says, Matron Grenell has already put a fair amount of trust into you. But, to be honest, we are goblins. How far can you trust us? But I will take your words. If you survive Belloc, if you free our Gothias tree, Krolk will make Matron Grenell, who is Krolk's matron of blood, honor your treaty. And he spits into his hand. And he holds his little gray goblin hand up to yours, Griveth. No, you have to spit into it. Then it is a deal. And Krolk,
I hope you're all fine with this deal.
Krolk gathers the other goblins that are all commoners. He speaks in goblin. Talmud, you're the only one that understands. As he basically just rallies them, he says, "We are going now. We are going home." And he shepherds the other goblins out through the door you guys came into the main garden area, and he looks back at you. Griveth, he looks at you and he says, Croak has given you his name and his word. What is your name, human?
My name is Griveth Langsmore, champion of Eldath.
Griveth Langsmore, champion of Eldath. I hope to see you again.
And
he closes the door.
And I say, and I you, friend.
And then he closes the door. And that's where we're going to end tonight's session. With an unexpected peace treaty with the Goblin Guard.
Why not?
You guys
Yeah,
are
why
the
not?
atypical party. I mean, you've done your fair share of run in and stomp them down. But yeah, suddenly Talmud turns storyteller. I like that C-3PO Star Wars moment there. So, so I'm going to go ahead and give Griveth and Talmud some inspiration for those scenarios as well.
Thank you.
Gracias.
So, and I also want to say a huge shout out to our audience tonight. Excuse me. We had quite a few people in the YouTube and Twitch chats. I will go back tomorrow after I have had some sleep. Had a late Halloween game last night. I did see the Epic Spire. I didn't want to interrupt the flow of the game. I saw it when I was talking about the monitor earlier. Epic Spire asked how my eye is. Thank you. My eye, I had that week where my vision went bad in one eye mysteriously. And it's been fine ever since then. So I'm trying to pay closer attention to my diet and trying to work in some more exercise to continue my, in just a couple days, I'll actually hit 4 months of no fast food. So, trying to live a healthier life because I'm taking that vision thing as a, just a sneak peek early warning sign at potential, diabetes is just around the corner, and I don't want that. So thank you for your concern. But thank you to everybody. Thank you, of course, to Chameleon Fam for dropping that early boon of domain dice that were used through this session. Thank you to so many of you that have been coming to not just our Thursday games, but I'm starting to see more and more names of you that I recognize across different games. Some of you were there last night or are coming to our Sunday or Monday games. Mini Terrain Domain, we host the Tomb of Annihilation Chulta Personality game on Sunday nights. All That Glitters, our Waterdeep Dragon Heist game, in which V is a player as well as Megan. And then, of course, here on Thursdays, occasional one-shots. We're going to be starting crafting streams up soon. So if you would like to be a part of the Mini Terrain Domain family, of course, all you got to do is keep showing up. Keep showing up and watching the videos. Look here on the overlay or down on the YouTube information bar, and you will see everybody's social media links. Follow all of these folks. Go subscribe to their YouTube channels. Everybody is creating amazing content, whether it's crafting, gaming, or a hybrid of both. Over on Twitch, hit that little heart icon to follow. Consider subscribing. You can do so for free once a month. If you have a linked Amazon Prime account, you get one free subscription every month. So why not use it for Mini Terrain Domain? And over on YouTube, I checked just earlier today. We were just a few shy of 8,500 subscribers. When we hit 9,000 subs on the YouTube channel, I will be announcing a 10,000 sub drive. I'm going to have a pretty cool prize pack. There's actually going to be probably 3 for a kind of a first prize, second prize, third prize that I'm going to do. But I'm not going to tell you guys what that is until we hit 9,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. And then if you hit that little bell, ring the bell there in the corner. Sorry, I've been watching a lot of How Ridiculous. That's their thing. Ring the bell. Get your bell on. Anyway, no, just hit that bell. That'll let you be notified when we go live. Because every once in a while, I actually almost did it the other night. Every once in a while, I'm going to do surprise streams where I'll just come on. I might be working on, I'm actually writing a new adventure. Speaking of which, go to, let me drop this in the chat again. I just had my first adventure published as part of an anthology with 3 other writers, the Arcane Library, Burling's Beard, and Sharang Biswas. And if you head over to the Drive-Thru RPG, we are exclusively selling that book there. I kind of, dipped my feet into the publishing pool, and I sat down the other night to work on one of 2 adventures that I have in the chamber. And of course, as we creators do, I sat down to work on one of those 2 and instead created an entirely new adventure concept that I'm writing. So, and then finally, I mentioned once earlier, you can support Mini Terrain Domain on Patreon, where all of those, there's many different tiers of rewards as well as goals that are set that will help to just use that fan funding to help support the channel, make improvements, and ultimately, eventually when the time is right and the support is there, to send me to various cons. Like V and Scotty are going to be at Mace in North Carolina, right? Or is it South Carolina? North Carolina next week. I want to be able to go to cons too. So it's through the wonderful support of people like you guys that help with that. So, yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Scotty, V, and Jeremy. I do want to say, because of Mace, Scotty and V will not be available next week. So I will have Megan and Jeremy, and we'll probably grab a couple other people and run a one-shot. And then the following week, Scotty's not going to be available. So we're probably going to run another one-shot. And then the week after that is Thanksgiving. So there will not be a game that week. So this is actually the last Sunless Citadel episode until the last week of November. But that's just because we don't like to continue on without the players. I was really reluctant to do it without Megan tonight. But I talked with Megan about some things that we could do with her character, because narratively, she had just coincidentally set something up that let us do this in a way that makes sense. So, with all that, I see you over there, Brian. You're already on my list of people to get in touch with, especially since our last fill-in for you, Initiative Coffee Company, we were supposed to have a one shot on Monday on our All That Glitters, and a couple of us got sick and we couldn't do it. And if I get sick, we can't run the stream at all because I produce the stream. So I'll get in touch with you probably tomorrow, Brian. But yeah, hey, speaking of which, I want to say this before we go, because I'm not kidding about being tired. If you're in the chat and you're seeing these people here that are playing with us, and, I just said, hey, Initiative Coffee Company, we're going to get you into a game, and you want to play in a Mini Terrain Domain game, and you want to be in one of these spots or one of these spots down here, or maybe even in a 5th spot right below, we'll move the domain dice up into the corner somewhere. All you got to do is follow me on Twitter. I'm going to say just follow me on Twitter, because I usually do that. Or if you're over in the Absolute Tabletop official group on Facebook. But I often post interest posts for one-shots and games. DM Kenosis, I see you in the chat for multiple games. Keep an eye out for interest posts. And if you are a master level supporter on Patreon, which is at the $12 per month level, you will get interest posts 48 hours before everybody else. So I post there on Patreon for master level patrons 48 hours at least before anybody else gets a chance. But definitely watch for those interest posts on Twitter. I've got at least one, maybe 2 more slots to fill for next week. And then the week after that, we're going to have a slot to fill for one shot. So there's a chance to get in, because I mean this when I say it. I want to play D&D with you. So with that, one more time, thank you to everybody in the audience who's tuned in. I keep peering down. This is me peering around my microphone that's blocking the top of my monitor. Thank you, Scotty, V, Jeremy again. And we'll send a thank you up into the Canadian mountains to Megan, who's enjoying a vacation this weekend. And before we go, I'm going to say it the same way, just like we do every week, and you can join me if you want. Amazing.